Good morning. I am Bethany Goff, and today I have the privilege of sharing with you my piece of God's great story of salvation. I was born into a Christian family, and I just want to say praise God for all of these faithful Christian parents bringing their kids to church. My parents were actually attending seminary when I was born, and a few years later, our family moved to the country of Latvia, where my parents worked as church planters. While we were living in this area of the former Soviet Union, my eyes were open to the hopelessness of life without Christ. I was a child and I saw everything as very black and white, and what I saw was a culture of fear and depression and anger everywhere around me, except in the church. And in the church, I saw joy and hope and life. And so I recognized that on my own, I was angry and I was anxious and I was in that culture of fear. And it was only through the grace of God and a personal relationship with Jesus that I could enter into that community of love and joy and peace. So as I observed that, it became clear it was not my own power. It was a relationship with Christ that I needed. So I confessed my sin, I accepted Christ's salvation, and I remember immediately being filled with joy. And I remember immediately hearing those same Bible stories I'd heard before and understanding how they applied to my life and understanding how God was working in the world. I also had a new burden to pray for those around me, that they would experience the same salvation that I had and understand the news of salvation. And it was not long after this, my family moved back to the United States. Time passed, I grew up, I went to college, I got married to Isaac. We now have 4 wonderful children. But through all of this, I discovered that you don't have to live in a second or third world country to be faced with anger and depression and fear, that those are things that are very real everywhere. And even as a Christian, those are things I have had to struggle with. But God's plan in saving me was not to just make my life easy and to remove me from all of that, but to walk with me and show himself faithful to me as I lived in that world. And so one of the primary ways I've experienced the sanctifying and comforting presence of the Lord is through memorizing his word and meditating on it. And so the Gospel of John tells us the Word was with God and the Word was God. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us in the person of Jesus, and now the Word is living and active, full of grace and truth, and present with us. It is so comforting that when I face that world, when I face anxiety or depression or fear or anger, that I can meditate on God's words, and he walks with me through those trials. I am not alone. He gives me that peace, joy, and hope of glory. And another very tangible way that I've experienced the grace and presence of God is through his body, the church. As a military family, we move all the time, and we prioritize when we go to a new place, finding a local, God-honoring, biblical community where we can plug in. This is where our family, our community is found each place we have lived. So we have started attending here, Grace Baptist, this summer, and after hearing about it from several other West Point families. And I really appreciate the Bible-centered preaching, the discipleship available for adults and children alike, and the way that Grace is involved in praying for and serving this local community and even the global church all around. So we're really excited to be part of this church and to continue to grow in grace and wisdom here.